So before we get more into this, I think it's important for people to know where you came from. Maybe just give some light on the things you're doing now, which you're from originally Texas,
Yep, I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas,
Fort Worth, Texas.
so near
Okay.
near Dallas.
Mm,
I was I went to school at near University of Georgia, and then wait, did you spend time in Atlanta or no?
a little bit. I mean, I have family living there now, so
Okay,
I lived there for like not live, but visit. You
okay,
know.
and yeah, so near Atlanta, and then I was working in West Texas, in Midland, Texas.
No, nice.
But I've been kind of everywhere in the small towns. I was my job was called a landman.
A landman. What the hell is that?
Basically, it was finding and it was discovering who owned and then buying oil and mineral and gas rights
Mm.
from people who owned it.
Oh, so you're using that? That's is that sales kind of or?
Kind of, it's mainly research and then just, I mean, it's a bit negotiating,
Yeah.
but it takes way longer to find who owns what because the
Mhm.
records are so, it's not really tracked. Because the
Mm.
idea is that you pay taxes on like surface,
Mhm.
but you don't pay taxes on minerals until minerals are extracted.
So
So
you
there's no reason for like anyone to know. There's no records for who knows who owns the minerals until like they find oil or gas or something like that.
wow, that is okay. So that's some real, probably a lot of money to be made too. So that's
I
dope.
mean, it's one of those things where I'm not, I don't love that I did it just because
Obviously, environment.
the environment. Basically, when I started doing that, that was before I moved to Germany. It was before I like traveled at all, and I
Mm,
was very much in that Texas mindset, very much conservative mindset. Always vote Republican, regardless of what happens. Everyone else is evil. Like that's just how I was brought up to believe. And then when I visited Europe for the first time, I was like, wait, none of that's true, and that kind of shifted everything.
mm,
So that's how I can still talk to people from there because I'm like, no, I get the bubbles that you're in,
mhm.
and but like when you visit people and like see, hey, like there's a whole world out there and you don't have to follow the rules that you've been taught. Like, working 24/7, nothing else in your life but work. That's what I was taught like from like a very young age. And just coming to a place where like, oh no, we only work so that we can live. And I was like, wait, Germany's saying that?
That is so true,
The
man.
efficient country that I've been told like works harder than us? Like they're like, no, we go on vacation, take time off. Like
Right, and it's like a lot of it
at
too.
5 o'clock, do not answer. Like you're done for the day. Like work is over that day.
Wow, that's still mind blowing. I mean, that type of work life balance, and how people really adhere to it here in Germany. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm glad you talked a little bit about Texas because I think like Texas is really, especially when it comes to like oil and gas, like that is a people, man, people get offended when you start talking against like, any environmental something. People are like, well, yeah, 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 this gas, this oil and gas has fed our generation, it's fed us for generations.
Yeah, no, it was weird too because I was in Leipzig and I was giving a presentation about kind of what I was doing for work,
Hmm.
and we were talking about oil and gas, and a German woman asked me a question. She was like, "What about fracking? Fracking's illegal, though, right?" And I was like, "No."
Nah, it's legal as hell.
But it's just so weird having that just there's one mentality of anything we can do to make more money, regardless of the impact of everything else.
Hmm.
And then coming to a place where here it's like, oh no, that's bad for the world. That's bad for the environment. You can't do that.
Right.
You can't make money off that because it causes earthquakes. We don't know what other impacts it's going to have.
Hmm.
But like spending all like so many years in a place where it's like, oh, whatever we do, we will make money on it, and we don't care about any of the other consequences because I want my bank account to get bigger.
Yeah.
And it's such a different change. It's
Man,
so much. That's one of the reasons I like it so much more here.
right. I mean, how was it? So to kind of skip a little bit forward, how was it when you first like left Texas? You not say left Texas, but you left that bubble and you went into maybe a bubble here in Europe. Like how was that first time? What were the moments where you're like, oh, it's different than where I was coming from?
I think the biggest difference for me was so I did a study abroad. This is a really so I started studying in Georgia. I left for a bit, and that was when I first started working in West Texas. And then 2009 happened, financial crisis happened,
Hmm.
went back to school. Uh, and before doing that, I did a quick trip to London and Dublin on very short notice, and I loved the idea of it, and I wanted to do it later in a language where I didn't speak, in a country where I didn't speak, and language where I didn't speak.
Mhm.
I picked Germany because my dad likes German food.
Okay.
He likes the potatoes and like the schnitzel and things like that. Even though some of that's Austrian, but like I don't. We're not here to
Yeah, not
critique my
yeah.
dad's idea of German food.
Right, we're in Germany, so let's go with German.
So I also didn't know at the time either because I'd never been, to continental Europe at that time.
Yeah.
Um, when I went there, I did a study abroad that was kind of everywhere in Germany, but it was 6 weeks in a place called Weimar.
Weimar, okay.
You might know of Weimar from the Weimar Republic,
Yeah.
where which is the government that Hitler eventually took before World War II.
Ah, right.
So he got elected, and then the Nazis came, and then the Nazis all died, and now they have a new government.
Right.
And so but the cool thing about Weimar, from my standpoint, was that even though the Allies, the U.S., uh, not Russia, the U.S., France, and the UK
Mhm.
went to Berlin through that part of Germany. It when they separated it, they gave it back so that the U.S. could have part of like the U.S. the Western Allies could have parts of
Mm.
Berlin.
Mhm.
So it was, even though it was liberated by like the US and stuff, it became East Germany.
Interesting, East Germany, okay.
And so the GDR, DDR, however you want to call it.
Mhm.
But the really cool thing about that was I met a lot of people who lived through those times. And the
Wow.
thing was, because yet again, I talk about how I was in that right wing bubble of Texas, of just conservative bubble,
Mhm.
where anything and every government spending healthcare, for crying out loud, is communist. And then I met people who lived in socialism. They won't even call it communism, even though that's like further, like socialist, further government run than anything that the US ever had. And they would talk about it logically. Here's the good things. Here's the bad things. Here's just what it was. And you're like, wait, that's it. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things that were worse behind it. But there's things they missed. There's things like healthcare. There's things like women having the ability to become scientists, things like that.
Mm.
That at the time in the US wasn't a thing. But there it was, because it was a different mentality. But it just, looking at the difference of like their day-to-day lives and just how like the government did impact that, I was like, wait a second, all this stuff that I was being told my whole life is not right. And I know that because here's the people who lived through it. They're telling me, no, you know, that's propaganda, basically.
Mm.
And so that's what kind of got me to start thinking about that.
Yeah, wow. And I mean, even just you being in the place, talking with the people, and the people that experienced something that was very traumatic, multiple in multiple different levels, right? Um,
Well, I wouldn't say most of it wasn't traumatic. Most of it, because yet again, there's this thing called nostalgie.
what's that?
It's nostalgia for life in East Germany. So
Mm.
Ost is German for East.
Yeah,
Nostalgia, Ostalgie,
yeah.
basically the same
Oh,
word.
nostalgia. Okay.
And it one thing I've looked back, especially now with the recent election in the US, is because I met a couple people who wouldn't outright say it, but they seemed like they're either going to vote for Trump, or they remembered what it was the first year that he was in office.
Mm.
And they thought, okay, all the good that happened, which was just what happened. It's just America. It's just, yeah, there's jobs there. There's companies that's it.
Hmm.
It seems like the further away you are from something, the more you remember the good and forget the bad. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seemed true because there's
Yeah.
yet again, we've all seen the pictures of, families being reunited on when the Berlin Wall fell.
Right. Yeah.
And clearly people wanted opportunities that they couldn't have. I mean, you don't build a wall to keep people trapped.
Yeah.
You just don't do that.
Right.
So, like, clearly there were things that weren't good about East Germany and that
Hmm.
people were fleeing from it. But then hear people talk in more realistic terms about what it meant for their day-to-day lives and just how different it is from, you know, single payer healthcare,
Mm.
things like
Oh,
that.
right. Yeah. Right.
That I've been told, like, if we do that, then we're a communist nation and we'll fail. And it's like, that's not,
Yeah. Wow.
that's a big jump.
Big jump. And I mean, all it's so easy too, because when you're in America, like, you have so many different like outlets too that are perpetuating these type of not stereotypes, but these thoughts, right? Like, you got Fox News, you got like all these other news companies. MSNBC. I mean, like all there's all companies that are pushing something to some degree, right?
Yeah.
And not really talking about it in a pros and cons sort of way, which I think that's kind of missing in like say media in America. There's no media in America. You do pros and cons is when your ratings start going down.
Yeah.
The minute you start focusing on one or the other, mostly probably cons, is when your ratings go up.
Yeah.
That's when business is booming. Focus on negative. Here it seems like balance, like, oh, this is good and this is bad. And that's when it becomes boring. You're like, oh, all right. Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Just, this and this. And you're like, oh, all right. Well, hey, I'm about to go back to America and and be paranoid.
Yeah. I think Jon Stewart, he did one way back in the day. I think it was like 20 years ago or something. Like it was well, actually I don't he's done a few where he says this is what the media does and this is when it works and this is when it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the rise of cable news.
Mm.
And mainly Fox, but also MSNBC, CNN, things like that.
Yeah, right, right.
It's like it makes sense during 9/11. Like something so just earth shattering. We have no clue what's going on. We want to know what's going to happen. We
Mm-hmm.
will watch the news every single second until we know what's going on.
Right.
Any other time, they have to manufacture that drama.
Huh. Right.
Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
not going to get the ratings.
Do you think they manufacture drama here since your time here in Germany? Like,